All right, Be'ez Hashem, we're holding in the middle of Perek Tes. I just want to, just in case there were a couple of things that weren't 100% clear yesterday, I want to clarify and then we'll move on. Two things specifically that we mentioned yesterday was the beginning of Perek Tes started with the idea of explaining these two neshamas that the Rabbeinu Shalom places in the Yid, the Nefesh HaBahamas and Nefesh HaLekis, are placed physically. The Gilui is in those two places, and we mentioned that the Nefesh HaBahamas is specifically in the Leiv B'chol Smoli, in the left part of the heart area, which is full of blood, whereas as we said, the Nefesh HaLekis is B'moichin Shebarosh, which we explained was because at the end of the day, the Baal HaTanya's famous Shita is, and we've mentioned this many times, Regesh does not happen stam. It has to come from seichel. It has to come from intellectual thought processes, spinniness, thinking about things, whatever it may be. Now you have to understand, by the way, just derech agav, this shita of the Baal HaTanya was not accepted universally. Definitely not by the Litvish Olam, but even by the Chassidish Olam, he had a lot of pushbacks. In fact, they say that one of his big chaverim, when he got hold of the first edition of the Tanya, he was very, very upset. He was very, very shocked. He was horrified, and he said to the Baal Tanya, this is completely opposite to what the Baal Shem Tov had in mind. Like, no shaykh, he's got a lot of pushback. Kotsk, Kiyodua was very, very against the Shita. There's a different Shita, and that is the Baal Tanya's Shita is that everything comes from the Seichel, and real Ava, real Yira of the Rabbeinu Shalom has to start off in the brain. It starts with the Chachma Bina V'das, we've spoken about it, and that produces all the rest of the feelings. Again, not everyone holds that way, even though, of course, even the Kotzkas held that stam person, singing, running around, thinking, thank you Hashem, I love you Hashem, whatever it may be, it's wonderful, but it's all fluff, it's not real, it's not emes, because it has to come from a real place. But the Baal HaTanya's Shita is that it has to come from seichel, it has to come from intellect. And that's the reason why he holds that the Nefesh HaLekis comes specifically from the Moichin Shebarosh. So let's continue. So we ended off yesterday by saying, and we compared this to a city which is trying to be conquered by two kings, and therefore each king is trying to conquer that city that everyone over there should listen to the king. This is what's going on with Baal HaTanya in our bodies. We have over here the Nefesh HaBahamas schlepping us azoi, Nefesh HaLekis schlepping us azoi, two different directions, and each one the goal of each one is that we should fully be under its jurisdiction, which is why it's important to understand what that is. So let's continue. Shohelekis, right, talking about the Nefesh HaLekis, Chefza Ritzoina Shetehehi Levada. You see, that's the big yesod. The Nefesh HaLekis wants to be alone. He wants to have full authority over us in two ways. Number one, Hamoisheles Alav, and also Hanigosai. Right? And also the way that we are, steering us in our actions. V'chol ha'ivorim yusorim l'mishmalta or b'telim etzlo l'gamri or merkova aleo. And therefore, if that's the case, it's totally conquered our bodies so that everything we do, everything we think, everything we say, every action, every organ is completely a vehicle for it and becomes bottle to it. V'yeh levush. And it's the clothing, we've spoken about that many times. Le'esa b'chinas v'gimel uvusheha, right? That's machshava dibur amaisa, which again, all of this is in the union of understanding the gadlus of Hashem. And now that we've spoken about previously, Perek Gimel, we spoke about that. She's labshu kulam be'ivri aguf, that they're all clothed in the ivorim of the guf. V'ya guf kulei molei mehem, and the entire guf becomes completely full of them. Levadam, only, completely alone. That there'll be nothing zor, nothing strange, right, coming from the outside. So that's what the Nefesh HaLekis really wants. That's the goal of the Nefesh HaLekis, to completely take over, conquer our body in every way, to make sure that it's purely for the Rabbeinu Shalom and the love of Hashem and the year of Hashem. Dahainu, what does that mean? Tlas moichin shebarosh, right, the three moichin in the rosh that we spoke about, if you remember, the inquiry, the cognition, the recognition, that basically controls everything. That's completely full with Chochma Bina V'das, Shebenefesh HaLekis, from that side. She Chochmas Hashem Ubinosan is Spoinim Bagadlusoi. to have the Chokhmah Bina to be misboinain, to think about the godless of Hashem. Asher ad ein chekev ein soy, which no one can investigate and go thoroughly through, and there's no end. Ulahoilid mehem, meaning from the Chokhmah Bina al yidei hadas hayira b'moicha pachad Hashem b'liboy va'avas Hashem ke'esh bo'era b'liboy kirish be'shal heves. Tanya once again going with his famous shita that yira comes before ava. Rambam famously holds faket. The Rambam holds that ava comes first and then yira comes first. Tanya's shita many times we've seen, he just said it over here as well, is first the yira and then you have the ava. And again, you're seeing this shita again and again. Where does a person get real avas Hashem and yiras Hashem, which is the goal of everything? You learn all the Sfarim HaKadoshim. They're busy with this avas Hashem and yiras Hashem. How do you get it? You get it through real thought process and being misponen on the godless of Hashem, and that your entire moich, entire body, entire brain, every part of your chokhmah bina v'das that has any intellectual, capabilities is fully absorbed and wrapped around this idea of the godless Hashem. Liyos niksufa v'gam kolsa. So it comes out that your neshama, your soul, is yearning. Everything is desiring it. B'chashika, b'chafitza ledovka ba. You're chalashing, you're desperate. It's becoming so exciting. Be'ein say baruch hu b'chol leiv v'nefesh ma'oid, ma'um kedeliba, from the most depths of your heart, she'b'chol hayimoni, which comes from the right hand side. Remember, the Nefesh Baham is on the left hand side. We're going over here on the right hand side. So it comes to a situation that you're overflowing with so much love. Ad, and this is the big part, Rabbi say. Ad shetispashit gam lecholol hasmaoli. I want it to overflow so much from the right-hand side that it spills over to the left-hand side. La'akbiya l'sitra achara. That's, of course, I want it to go to the side where the Nefesh Bahamis is. Yisoid HaMayim. Mayim, of course, as we know, is the makar for all the Tanugim. Haroyim Sheba, the bad ones. She Taiva, and all the Taivas, Sheba Klipas Noiga, which we've spoken about previously. That's the source of all of those. L'shanoisa, and al yedei, that intense love, which is now overflowed to the other side. L'shanoisa, it changes it. Ulahofcha, and it flips it over. Mitanugi olam hazeh la'avas Hashem. And now, instead of running around trying to get tanugi olam hazeh and enjoying that steak and whatever it is that I'm looking for, the love that I've generated from my brain, from my heart, from my intellect has spilled over with such intensity that now I just want avas Hashem. That's all I want. We're dealing on very high levels over here. K'moshe Kosov, it says in the Pasuk, we say this every day. B'chol levavacha. And the Gemara tells us, what does that mean in brachos? B'shnei yitzarecha, right? Specifically the Yetzer Tov and the Yetzer Hara. In that case, there are two stages. So number one, I want to tame the dark side. And number two, I would like to transform it into what's meant to be good. So that's what we spoke about yesterday, at the end of yesterday, that the Nefesh Bahamis wants to completely conquer our body and take it over in that way. V'hainu, shiyala v'yavo v'yagia, that I get eventually, the madregas ahava rabba, v'chiba yisera, mi madregas ava azak rish be'esh. Again, these are all the shonas shirashivim, but Tanya uses these things a lot. And he's saying over here there are two levels. Love is the highest level, and this flaming fire, this rish be'esh that he keeps on talking about, this flaming fire represents this yearning, this desperate yearning that a person has to get closer to Hashem, to get closer as much as he can. This great love is an experience of closeness to Hashem, that he's enjoying his presence. Vihi hanikris b'kosuv ahava b'tanugim. This is the real ava. Of course there's ava. Of course there's tanugim. But in what? And you're directing your heart to have an ava of tanugim, of avas Hashem, of being close to Hashem, of having a connection to Hashem, that it's overflowing in your heart, that it's so desperate that you're chalashing for it. In this case, right? We know that olam haba, stated in the Gemara, that the tzaddikim are sitting and they're being nanem ziva shchina, they're having hana from the ziva shchina. Well, the Tanya is telling us that even in this world we can get that. We can get to the madrega that we're being nanem ziva shchina, we're having hana from the shchina of this closeness, and that's what it is. I'm sorry. Va'oiniku b'moyach chochma v'seichel hamisanig ba'askola sashevidi oso kvi asoga sucham v'chamosoy. Of course, everyone's got different mahalchim, different limitations, different capabilities, but according to your capability, you have this ability to understand. In the idea is clear, very borrow the gadlus of Hashem. V'hu b'chinas hamayim v'zera oizaru as well. This is the light of the nefesh elokis that was planted within us that has now become awakened. Shebekudushas nefesh elokis. Okay. I'm using the klipa of understanding from the light was on day number 1, water was on day number 2. The Zohar Kodesh tells us that the first man is the seed and it sprouts within it the water. Because this is all Kabbalistic ideas that we're not going to go too much into, but that's basically what he's telling us. Hamapeches letoiv es bechinas hamayim shebenefesh v'hamish v'hem. Bo taivas tanuga olam hazeh mitchila. A commercial course of Eitz Chaim Shanun. He quotes with Eitz Chaim Perigimon b'Shem HaZoya Shaharan Hepach Lios Toiv Gomel. You hear that? The Ra within us can be transformed, right, completely into Toiv Gomel K'ma Yetzer Toiv Mamish. B'Hasab B'Godim Atzoyim. Once we have removed the dirty, soiled clothing Mimenu from it, Shehim Tanuga Olam Hazeh Shu Mubash B'Hem. Because right now, our neshama, our body, is so clothed with soiled, dirty clothing of enjoying this world, we need to be able to remove that in that case. So what the Zohar is telling us over here is that the Nefesh Bahamis Be'ika is Taiva. It's Taiva. And it could be good, but it also could be bad. It really depends how you use it. We spoke about that previously. And therefore what we need to do is to remove the Taivas Olam Hazeh, you can switch everything into Taivas Elokis. So that's what the Nefesh Elokis really wants, to conquer your body to get to that madriga. Let's finish off the perek. V'chein Shakol HaMidas Shebalev Sheim Anfei Yira V'Ava. All of the other midas in that case, all of the emotions, if you remember we spoke about this in Perek Gimel, all the emotions that a person has are all unfair, they're all branches of either Yira and Ava. Again, look at the order that the Tanya says, be medaik. Yil Hashem levadoi should only be for Hashem. V'chol koyach hadibur shebapeh, and every time you open up your mouth, v'amachshava, and there's a thought process going on up here. Shebamayach yememulim min alevushe amachshava v'dibur shel nefesh elokis levado. It's only full of nefesh elokis in that case. Shehei machshavas Hashem v'toyrasoi liyos sichosoi kol hayoim leiposuk pumei begirsa. It doesn't stop from your mouth. Talking about the gadlus Hashem, talking about the Torah Hashem. V'koyach ma'asi shebiyod v'shar remach evor v'yi b'maseh mitzvahs levad. That means once again the nefesh elokis wants to have full control not only of your machshavas, not only of your heart, but over every action that you take. Shu levush hashlishi shel nefesh elokis. That's the third levush that we spoke about nefesh elokis. However, nefesh habahamis shema klipa ritzoyna lehepech mamish. We have a problem. And the problem is that we've got a nefesh habahamis that wants exactly the opposite. The toivas ha'adam, she is skabe oleho v'natzchena. He wants to have full control. He wants to overpower, right? Which is why, by the way, this is for our good, because it challenges us to overcome, right, and get out of the nefesh habahamis, right? Because we don't want to listen to it. We want to switch it over. But it really comes to our good to push us in the opposite direction. Now he brings over here a Zohar Kodesh. We'll just end with this. The Zohar tells us like this. He brings us that everything Kodesh Baruch Hu does is for our good. Everything Hashem does is for our personal good, right? It's for our avodas Hashem. For the Zohar Kodesh. So why does bad exist? What's the purpose of bad? What is the purpose of bad? This is Zohar's kasha. So the Zohar, again, he quotes it, but he doesn't say what it is. I'm just telling you what it is. He says the Zohar brings a mashal of a king that tells its son, don't go after that woman who's running around the streets for your own good. Then the king calls in the Zohar, the prostitute, and says, I'd like you to tempt my son, right? Just to test his devotion. And the son manages to overcome, and he wins, and he manages to, Baruch Hashem, to pass the test. And the king gives 2 presents to his son, right? And the king, what did the king do? So the king put the Zohar, the prostitute, in the son's life to test him, so that he will overcome, so that he'll be able to give him presents. So the Tanya, the purpose of the nefesh habahamis is to test us. It's for our good. It's for us to be able to overcome, for us to be able to win. Be'ez Hashem, next week, continue Perek Yud.